Morning, everybody. Happy March. Happy everything to everybody. It is 8:02 and I call to order the DuPage County Finance Committee regular meeting for Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. A quorum of the members is physically present. I will entertain a motion to permit those members not physically present due to personal illness or disability, employment purposes, or of the business of the board, family or other emergency or unexpected childcare obligations to participate by video or teleconference. I have a motion by member Heather, second by member Evans. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Welcome, member Covert.
Thank you.
Moving on to roll call. Can I get a roll call?
Yeah. Member Cahill, member Childress, member Covert,
Here.
member Desart, member Eckhoff, member Evans, member Galassi, member Garcia,
Here.
member Heather, member Honig, member Krajewski, member LaPlante, member Martinez,
Here.
member Ozak, member Schwarzy, member Tornatori, member Yu,
Here.
member Zay.
Okay, so moving on to approval of the minutes. Oh, I'm sorry. We have public comment. I forgot that today. We actually do this morning. Can we get public comment? You have 3 minutes, I believe. 3 minutes?
Yes.
We don't usually have public comment. Fine.
Jerry Galloway.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jerry Galloway, a Lisle Township trustee and a regular volunteer in our township food pantry. I'm here with fellow trustee Sue Howell. Our pantry director is out of town and our supervisor couldn't be here today. Our pantry is open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from noon until 4 p.m. for a total of 12 hours per week. The employees and some volunteers do pick up groceries from stores and organize during off hours to have everything out and ready for openings. We have a full-time director, a part-time assistant, and a part-time driver. We also have a core of regular volunteers. We have 5 commercial freezers and 5 refrigerators, and run a refrigerated box truck with a lift gate and a panel truck for pickups. There are 10 or more stores that we pick up from. We don't know what we will get on a pickup. It could be a full truck from one store, or multiple stores could yield nothing. But on balance, we get a lot. The pantry is mostly self-service except for meats. People can take unlimited canned goods, cereals, breads, and fresh vegetables to the extent that we have them. Items in short supply are usually limited. We make every effort, not always successfully, to provide people with foods that meet their needs: vegetarian and vegan foods, halal foods, ethnic foods, and so on. As I see it, expand on our food pantry would be to expand the hours to include some evening and/or Saturday hours to help meet the nutritional needs of working people and their families who may struggle with the cost of food. Expanding hours would require a minimum of 2 township employees during operations as required by the township for safety reasons. If grant money or a portion of it could be used for salaries, it would be a big help in expanding opening hours of the pantry. I'm sure other pantries have different needs and that expanding our hours could create new needs for us. But in my mind, the best bang for the buck for us short term would simply be expanding the hours. And grant money would be of great use for that purpose. Thank you for your interest and for your time.
Thank you for public comment. Next public comment.
Sue Howell.
Hi, I'm Sue Howell, another trustee from Lisle Township. You just heard from Jerry Galloway. We have followed your discussions about helping the people in DuPage County who live with food insecurity. I want to start by thanking the county for all the assistance that has been provided in the past, especially during the challenging COVID times. We are also grateful for the proposed program that would allow the Northern Illinois Food Bank to provide us with fresh produce. Our township operates a food pantry that would be considered quite small compared to Loaves and Fishes. Last year, we ran into a significant financial problem. The 501c3 foundation that previously covered a large portion of our financial costs, our food costs, shut down just 2 months after we took office without very much notice to us. Our supervisor worked to find dedicated members of the community who quickly formed a new 501c3 foundation. Contributions from the new foundation have helped us greatly. Our pantry may be small, but it provides vital services to more than 200 families a week. I volunteer at the pantry every Monday. Some of our families are not able to travel to Loaves and Fishes. Some of them use rideshare, and the cost to the western side of the county would be prohibitive. I know a gentleman who rides his bike and makes 2 trips in one afternoon to get food. As you all know, our small pantries take care of those who have limited access to traveling. At your March 3rd meeting, there was a lot of discussion about how the proposed $6.8 million program could offer different types of assistance. $2 million is meant to help the small to medium food pantries with a challenge to collaborate and find ways to use a minimum of a $500,000 grant. Thank you to several members who shared their concern that smaller pantries like ours do not have the infrastructure to use that large amount of money. I heard Chair Conway mention that she would be open to a lower amount for the smaller pantries. We suggest that you consider grants of $50,000 to $100,000. This would work much better for smaller pantries like ours as we develop plans to add staff, to allow increased hours, or consider another refrigerator truck. These plans won't hit the $500,000 mark, but will still significantly improve our services. Thank you for your help in providing our community with healthy food.
All right, thank you so much for your public comment. As we know, Lyle Township is a little bit near and dear to my heart. So, moving on, I did forget to welcome the Hinsdale Central students here today. Thank you for being here. I think Member Evans brought them here today. So thank you, Member Evans, for bringing the students here to learn about civics in a real life lesson. So thank you so much. Moving on to the approval of the minutes, may I get a motion to approve 26-0826 for the regular meeting of Tuesday, February 24th, 2026. We got a motion by Member Childress, second by Member Heather. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to budget transfers, may I get a motion to approve 26-0913 transfer of funds from contingencies to other contractual expenses in the amount of $750,000 for the fiscal year 2026 PACE costs related to the Hinsdale Lake Terrace Rideshare Program. Got a motion by Member Evans, second by Member Yu. Any discussion on this? Member Eckhoff.
I just had a question as to why at this point in time we're having to transfer $750,000 for this project. It seems like we way under budget the program, or something happened that we needed $750 million?
Steve, you want to explain where we?
Yes, there's 2 parts to this larger project, if you will. There's the rideshare access program, the sidewalk and lighting. At this point, we're still kind of involved in preliminary engineering for the infrastructure portion. So we're looking to cover just really this fiscal year's, rideshare access program. So that's why it's only $750,000.
What I'm asking is, why didn't we budget for it before? Why are we transferring funds?
We needed these funds in order to do that. So finance had reserved that for us, and they're putting it in the bucket where we can actually use it.
So it was already.
I believe it's at a surplus. It's not a surplus. This was part of the surplus discussion that we had, Member Eckhoff.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Steve. Okay, got a motion. We've got a second. Any other discussion on this? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion to approve 26-0914 transfer of funds from contingencies to subscription IT arrangements in the amount of $53,740 to clear an expense out of the prepaid expense account from Tyler Technologies? Motion to approve? No, I'm not motioning. Member Zay, second by member Ozog, sorry, and any discussion on this item? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, may I get a motion to approve 26-0928, transfer funds from contingencies to transfer out of county infrastructure in the amount of $40,000 for the memorial park dedicated to victims of violence in DuPage County. We got a motion by, was it member Desart? Second by member Evans. Is there any discussion on this? Member Evans.
Sorry, I think we were confused on something else over there. Oh, okay. I just want to say I really support this. I think it's a great idea. I did hear from other constituents though that this is called it's dedicated to victims of violence in DuPage County, and there are other people that thought maybe it would be nice to also include different victims of, maybe drunk driving, victims of the opioid crisis, and suicide victims. I don't know if that's considered violence, but so I just like to maybe open up the possibility that this park is maybe for more people. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Member Honig.
Thank you, Chair, and kind of to piggyback off what Member Chang said, I think that going forward, I think talking about it as an encompassing, project, I'm approaching this as the perspective that, gun violence is a public health, issue, and that, there's other things that other counties are doing, such as Kane County, that actually provides, through another program, free, I believe, to the retailers, gun storage and also locks to retailers and people that are gun owners, to spread awareness of gun violence in the county and in the area. And as we talk about domestic violence, we talk about suicide prevention, all this leads back to a lot to have to do with gun violence. And so I think approaching this from a perspective, from a organized public service, announcement too, in possible conjunction with our health department. I've been in talks with Adam Forker to discuss, ways that, there's a possibility that we could work with our health department to kind of create that environment of, whether, we're obviously going to have more discussions on how that will look, but, a lot of different, options could be, going forward, like a QR code that leads to different resources for domestic violence, suicide prevention, gun violence. And I think that, like a live tangible QR code, like on the actual site that could, link to a lot of different resources, like possible lock boxes. And, talking about, safe gun storage, and maybe that's a possibility that this board could look at going forward, in conjunction with the health department to bring awareness to that. And the resources for safe storage and mental health resources along with that, and domestic violence awareness, mental health services, and that awareness aspect, while also honoring all the people and families who lost, a family member to gun violence, and as that relates to other causes that people are really passionate about, because that all, in my opinion, has, kind of come, there's a lot of gun violence that flows through all those different causes that has caused so much havoc too in the past. So so I think going forward, I do support this, so thank you.
All right, thank you, member Honig. Member Ozog.
Ozog, thank
All right,
you.
it's early.
So we ended up having a good discussion about this in Public Works. And I want to reiterate the point that I made at the end. At first, this was going to be victims of gun violence. Now we've expanded it to victims of violence. As member Honig said, there's always more that we can do across the board. I did point out that, in my opinion, I think that the Crisis Recovery Center is really a living memorial to the other issues that we face with opioid, mental health crisis, et cetera. So in this case, I think that we would dedicate this to victims of violence, obviously do as much as we can in other cases, but I support this as it stands. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Ozog. Member Desart?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I fully support this. I think it's a wonderful idea. I made the motion to approve the $40,000. My question is there, after the money is approved, are there still going to be other conversations about this? Because one of the things that I agreed with Member Zay about is that, you know, to honor loved ones, people are going to be able to buy a tree. And trees are very, very expensive. So what about the families who want to honor their loved one and don't have money for a tree? We talked about pavers or bricks like that. So anyway, my main question, Nick, is the money is approved today. I made the motion, and then will we still have discussions? Thank you.
So today is $40,000. It's a fairly small project, and much of the project will be completed in-house. So purchase wise, it will not come back to board. Policy wise, it will have more discussion at Public Works Committee. We heard you loud and clear on the trees might be more expensive. We're actually looking at, in addition, pavers for a smaller, maybe a smaller sum for people to do that. So that is going to be part of the dedication. Part of the policies for that. We're going to have trees out there. We're going to have the bricks. I will say I know there's discussion here about do we include opioid deaths, things like that. Right now, building the actual, and I don't know if you can pull up a picture of it. So the next 2-3 months, we're going to be building this. How we sign it, that's something we can have more discussions in Public Works Committee. But you're right, there is the CRC is kind of a living memorial of that. What the Public Works Committee, that's the information we'll want to see. We want to start building because this is going to take us probably 3 to 4 months to build, and so we want to get going on it. Signage and the dedication, the trees, the pavers, we'll have more discussion in Public Works Committee.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Member Childress?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to piggyback on Member Honig, and I'm also going to bring in a discussion from Member Yu at the Public Works Committee. At some point, we look at violence, and unless you've been or your family has been a victim of that, and unless you've looked down the barrel of a gun pointed at you, you know the seriousness of this. Okay, we have our CRC, we have other issues that we talk about in the county. However, victims of violence is something that you just can't get around. And unless you've been a victim of that, you don't know what that's like. Okay. And to turn around and say, well, I'm for this and I think it's a good idea, but I want to water it down. Again, I'm going to use the words that member you mentioned at our Public Works meeting. We don't want to water this down because we're talking about to just discount the trauma that the families are feeling due to this violence. And most of the time, like Mr. Honig said, it all circles back to a gun. Yeah, we have other issues, other violence in DuPage County, but I bet if you stack up gun violence versus knife violence or strangulation, it's going to pale in comparison. So at this point, I don't really want to have this watered down any more than what it is now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for spearheading this also, Member Childress. Moving on, I have Member Eckhoff next.
I just had a question. I thought the last time we left this, we were trying to do some research as to whether or not prior projects out there had been funded by volunteer organizations.
That was covered in Public Works, but I'll let Nick explain.
We did
Not
research
Public
that.
Works.
We have 2 memorials on campus here. We have the War Memorial, and then we have the Police and Firefighter Memorial. And we did look to see if private funding was provided for either one of those. And although for the police and firefighter it was talked about, we have no evidence that it was ever received. So how it was originally shown back in right around 2000 was that the county would front the money and there would be fundraising. It does not appear fundraising ever occurred.
Which one was that for?
Police and firefighter. War Memorial was paid for by the county. By what we, I mean, there was talk about fundraising, but there's no evidence that it ever occurred. And I will tell you for this, for the cost of 40,000, we do anticipate that at the end of this, with the sale of trees, we will likely recover that. It will take, albeit it will take several years to do it, but we will likely recover the cost of this over time.
Right, because I finally come up with the name of the person who was going around back in the 80s and 90s talking about Judith Crane Ross, who was in this boardroom on the county board, because she was always trying to raise money for it. The only person I could think of that's still around to ask would be Gwen.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk in the files about trying to raise money, but there was no evidence that it was ever raised. It was always the county fronted the money for both. And then it was like, hey, let's try to raise money, but I'm not sure that that effort was ever completed.
All right.
All right,
Between
thank you,
now and
member.
county board, I'll have to call Gwen.
Thank you, Member Eckhoff. Member you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So yes, I'm in favor of this. I am a little bit disappointed that it's not just a gun violence memorial, obviously, but especially because gun violence really touches upon domestic violence, and it touches upon suicide, and it touches upon unintentional shootings of minor children and teenagers, among other things. So, but I understand that this was an expansion, and in any case, I am in favor. I think with regard to the pavers idea, I know that this is going to be more, there's going to be further policy discussions and decisions to be made. It's just, I think that, and I've talked with Member Childress about this, about how there is somewhat of an equity issue, right? How doing individual pavers means some people who can afford to put out their loved one's name, and others who would really like to but cannot will never be able to. And so I think that's why maybe the tree idea, which would be dedicated to specifically gun violence survivors, domestic violence survivors, or whatever, by certain groups like One Aim Illinois or GPAC or Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense or Metro Families of Chicago, Family Shelter Service, those kinds of not organizations doing that as opposed to individuals paying for their loved ones. I feel like that would maybe solve the equity issue, but again, these are conversations to be had in the future. I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Thank you, Member you. Member Gajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just go back to the, I don't know if we've had any policy discussions. Maybe I heard we were going to start that soon, but we have a police and fire memorial, war memorial, now the Victims of Violence Memorial Park. Do we have any ideas, like if we have, because we've had a lot of talk about suicide, drug overdose, if we have groups coming and asking for memorials for those, are we going to take them on a case-by-case basis? Are we going to say, no, we're done, or yes, we're going to just move forward with one for suicide memorial? I had a constituent this morning text me, his son's on life support, drug overdose, doesn't look like he's gonna survive. That's an epidemic in our county as well. So I don't know if we've had any broader discussions at Public Works. You just mentioned further policy discussions, but just what we're gonna do with the next group that comes forward and would like a memorial for. There's a number of ones that have been thrown out in the last few weeks.
I do believe that, going back to Member Ozok's comments, I believe the CRC is a good place maybe to have that discussion begin. I mean, I think that is a living memorial. I think that's someplace that we could probably,
So having a memorial at the CRC, they build something there, or just
possibly, I don't know, we'd have to have more discussion on that.
That's
but-
what I was wondering, or we just tell them that the CRC
think
is your memorial?
No, I think we're having this discussion here today, and that will be in the future.
I will tell you that right now we do have a policy, and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, that right now if an individual would like to buy something, a tree or a bench and dedicate it to somebody, that is allowed right now as we speak. We have that policy in place. Do we have a dedicated memorial for overdose victims or
We
for
don't have that.
suicide? We don't have that.
I'm saying, what happens when the group comes and wants that, like the war memorial? They wanted one.
That would be a decision then for the.
So we don't really have, it's just you submit it, we have a bunch of discussions, we say yay or nay. It appears that we fund them ourselves now, that these prior to plus this one did not have any, private funding. I'm just curious what we
doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Kuczewski. Member Evans?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say, I hear you on the, we don't want to water it down. I completely understand that. I think we need to put a spotlight on gun violence and gun violence prevention. And I understand why everybody wants this, this memorial park to be dedicated to that. The issue, I guess, the broader issue is that we have limited space on campus. This is probably the only space where we can put a memorial park forever, you know, as long as we want to follow our stormwater limitations and regulations. So I'm not trying to water it down, but we did hear from, you know, one of our constituents, Wendy Williams, talks about all the people we lost to COVID. And, you know, she wanted the memorial to highlight that as well. So it's not just the opioid crisis. There's a lot of different things. And I'm not at all trying to water it down. I think, you know, when we have the groundbreaking ceremony, we absolutely should be highlighting gun violence and gun violence prevention. However, if we have limited space and if there are other people that do approach us and want a memorial at some point in the future, I would like the conversation. I don't want to close the door on that in this park. I think initially, absolutely, let's dedicate it to gun violence prevention, gun violence and victims and gun violence prevention. But in the future, if people do come up to us and say, what about us? I would like us to be able to respond with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Evans. Member, let's see, who hasn't spoke yet? You've already spoken. Member Kehoe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I support this initiative. I do like the idea of recouping the cost with tree sales and paver sales. We do that all over Elmhurst for many memorials, almost all memorials. So I think that is a really great thing. And people like to be involved and see their name there and dedicate it to their loved ones. So I think it's a wonderful idea. The third thing I wanted to say is that it's my understanding that the state's attorney's office recommended the name Victims of Violence in DuPage County, that gun violence, is that true? Because in talking to some of the state's attorneys, they made it this victims of violence, that they were calling it that as opposed to gun violence. So I don't think it was watering it down. I thought that was what was.
So a little bit of a history. So calling it Memorial Park was absolutely recommended by the state's attorney because the park allows us to utilize county funds. The victims of violence, that was the recommendation. We had discussions back and forth to be more inclusive of what was happening. I know the original thought was victims of gun violence, but then the thought process is that we could be more inclusive with victims of violence for DuPage County. Although the Memorial Park was the real requirement, the second part was a discussion back and forth. Was that? Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Member Cahill. Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate all the discussion by our members today. You know, this is just the first step, and I'd like to point out, I thought Member Honig had a great idea. If we really want to talk about gun violence and doing something, why don't we start a pilot program for gun locks here in DuPage County? We've got plenty of surplus money. Why don't we start a pilot program for maybe $10,000 to give away free gun locks and start that way? A park is a great thing with those people who've already suffered the violence. Let's do something to maybe stop violence in the future. So hopefully this is a great discussion to bring it forward, but you know, let's do something to, you know, help with that. And like you said, Member Honig had a great idea. We can work with health department, work with the sheriff's office. We can work with local police departments to start a small pilot program. I'm not saying a ton of money, maybe $10,000 to start and see how it works, but maybe to do that in the future to actually do something about gun violence here in the county.
Thank you, Member Zay. Member Yu, I'm going to have you respond to that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is not a new idea. In fact, the Sheriff's Department already has this program. And so when I ventured to speak with him about it, he said that they already do it and that they don't need to expand it. However, if there is appetite for it, I would love to expand it. And I know that almost every local law enforcement, including Elmhurst, they do have a gun lock program. So this is something that I would love to expand, especially because biometric safes are the ones that are the most safe and useful and convenient and easy to access for people who do want to access their firearm. So if we can expand it to include biometric safes, I'm all for it.
Thank you. And we're going to finish with Member Honig.
Thank you, Chair. And to kind of go off of that, I think too, it's like it goes with expanding the program with the awareness of it. So in conjunction with whether it's the sheriff's office, the health department, talking about it, and possibly from the equitable side of things, you talk about at the Memorial Park, maybe a digital companion site, a stone that has a QR code on it that links to survivor stories, that where if someone family doesn't want to have to pay for a tree or a paver, there is a site that links to resources, survivor histories, and just a plethora of stories and a place to reflect and also to do good in that area, because obviously there's so many gun violence deaths. There's so many causes that people care about. You can't there's not enough space, right, to fit that, and there's not enough, some people can't afford to do that. So that's what I brought up a few meetings ago, is that if we were to have a digital companion site, along with whether we talk about the ROE, the health department, the sheriff's office, we work together in conjunction with that, and then maybe we use some possible surplus funds and county funds to expand, kind of what Member Zay and you were talking about, is safe gun storage, biometric safes, as Member Yu was saying, is a very effective way to keep lawful gun owners safe, and their children, and also gun locks, and people like counties like King County have done it really effectively. And I know we have that program, but I think we can expand on it. We can push it out there to the public, and people can really utilize it. And I think going forward, doing everything we can with this Memorial Park to not only honor the gun violence survivors and domestic violence survivors, suicide, people who have died from suicide and opioid deaths, that we can, on our end, put a lot of resources into a digital companion site, whether it's a QR code, make it equitable for people, make it easily accessible, and do our part, because that's what our community deserves. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Honig. And my personal thing is, I just want to give a huge thanks again to Member Childress for bringing this up. I think this is a much needed thing in our community. We've been talking about it for a while here on our board, so I just want to thank you. I think we're going to take a roll call on this and just make sure that we get a vote on this one, if we won't mind. Thank you.
Member Cahill. Aye. Member Childress.
Yes.
Member Covert.
Aye.
Member Desart. Aye. Member Eckhoff. Member Evans. Aye. Member Galassi. Member Garcia.
Aye.
Member Heather. Member Honig.
Yes.
Member Krajewski. Member LaPlante. Member Martinez.
Aye.
Member Ozag. Member Schwarzy. Member Tornatori. Member Yu.
Aye.
Member Zay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Moving on to 6D. May I get a motion for 26-0939, transfer of funds from statutory and fiscal charges to regular salaries, temporary salaries in the amount of $446,514 to fund personnel 26 for the county clerk's office. Got a motion by Member Ozog, a second by Member Evans. Any discussion on this one? Okay, we've got Member Ozog. Okay, first of all, I should probably see, is anyone from the clerk's office here to answer any questions in regards to this? Is there anyone online from the clerk's office to answer any questions? As you probably realize, I sent an email asking for more clarification on this. I have not received any answers as of right now, but I guess they're not here either. Okay, so we're going to start with Member Ozog.
Okay, so there's nobody here from the clerk's office for us to ask any questions about this almost $500,000 transfer request. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So did we not budget for all of these line items in the fall and approve a budget?
I'm going to have Jeff Martinovich and Jenniferson come up and give an explanation on where they are in terms of their salary lines, so we can kind of get an idea of what's going on.
So to answer your specific question, we did budget for all of these.
including the, the fiscal charges and all the salary accounts and the overtime. This is the only information that we have on why it's necessary or why it's being done. So,
In other words, you have no information.
we don't have any
We
other
were just sent
information.
this and we want more money in these line items. Basically,
More money in the salary line item.
in the salary line item.
Correct.
Okay.
I think the question would be, and Jeff, maybe you can answer that, is as the current spending pattern right now in the personnel lines are based upon their burn rate, are they gonna have enough money based upon what you're seeing right now? And I think that might be a good question.
Yes, we track salaries very closely, each payroll, each month. So what we project to the end of the year is in these salary accounts, they'll have enough money based upon where they're currently at.
So they would definitely be able to carry on into the fall, preparing for the general election, et cetera.
Yes,
Okay, so in other words, we're being asked to transfer this $500,000, almost $500,000 for what appears to be no good reason.
correct.
Thank you.
And can I add on to that really quickly? They're transferring from statutory expenses. And I believe in the gubernatorial election of 2022, I believe that was in, correct? 22.
2022.
Okay, if they were to transfer this, will they have enough money for the statutory expenses?
No, in 2022 for statutory and fiscal charges, the account that's being transferred out of, in 2022, they ended the year at $2,382,388. When we do the math and we subtract the $446,514 from the budget, they'll be left with in statutory and fiscal $2,070,486. So based on prior year actuals of prior years, they'll be short in statutory and fiscal charges if this budget transfer went through.
Jeff,
Okay.
I'm sorry,
No, go.
could you define statutory so that we know what pot this is coming out of or the actual definition of this?
Yeah, the majority, almost all of it is for election judges, paying
For election judges?
Yes.
Okay. It's very disturbing that the clerk or her deputy clerk are not here today when they're asking the people who hold the purse strings, which would be the county board, to transfer $500,000. So based on the finance department's analysis, and the clerk has sufficient funding to meet her budgetary needs, in my opinion, it'd be more appropriate to take this up in closer to the end of the fiscal year. Therefore, I move to postpone this item to a date certain, October 13th, 2026, which would still be before the general election. It's not motion to table, it's a move to postpone to a date certain, October 13th, 2026.
Second.
So we've got a motion to postpone to October 13th, second by member Evans. Do you have discussion on that?
The only thing that could be discussed, we can't, when there's a motion and a second on a motion to postpone to a date certain, we can't get into the substantive issue. The only discussion that could be had under our county board rules is if someone had a different date. That would be the only discussion. It's limited to that date. Other than a different date, this has to be voted on.
Madam Chair, I move to suspend the county board rules for this discussion.
Second.
Got a motion to suspend the county board rules from member Zay, second by, I'm sorry, was it member Juski? Let me get it. Okay. Okay, do I have to take a vote on that? All in favor of suspending the rules?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we are suspending the rules. So we're gonna go back to member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, just putting us in a very awkward situation. We've asked them to send us stuff. They're sending us stuff now. It meets our requirements for personnel. They're taking it from lines they have and pushing it into other lines. This looks like the common setup to me that this could be being done on purpose. If we don't pass this, they're saying, staff is saying this is mostly being done to fund election judges. I just would hate to see us and that office put us in a spotlight and saying the county board is not giving us enough funds to pay the election judges for the primary. I just don't seem, I don't understand it. It puts us in an awkward spot, but again, to push it off to October, it would be, I don't know, just tying their hands a little bit when they're actually following our rules that we've asked. Obviously, they haven't telling us why they're doing it. It just kind of seems to be out there as almost a setup to us.
Let me just clarify real quick. We're taking money from statutory and fiscal, which is the election judge's account, and transferring it to the salaries account. Or that's the proposal. The
Okay,
regular
to
salary.
So they're taking it out of the judge's line.
Right.
I mean, I understand what Member Ozog motion was, but could we do it maybe for a month and see if they will come in and actually respond to us and why they're doing it? To put it off to October seems just a little farther.
Okay, thank you, members A. I'm gonna go on to member U.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just going back to the statutory and fiscal charges, has there been a change in legislation or statutes that require them to have less money, that they think there's going to be less need for the money in here?
No, nothing that I'm aware of.
Okay, and then with regard to the fact that they want to now change it, move it into salaries, overtime, all that stuff to fund personnel salary expenses, do we believe that they are underfunded 446,514?
No.
And is there an increase in headcount?
No.
Are they saying that there are like additional salary increases? Is that something that we know about?
We don't have any of that information right now. We didn't see any proposals for salary increases come in through Monday.
And lastly, because this is moving from statutory and fiscal charges to the personnel, is that going to require 2/3 county board vote?
Budget transfers do require 2/3 vote.
Because these are two different buckets, yes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, member U. Member Covert had her hand up. You still have a question?
Actually, thank you. It was answered.
Okay, thank you. Member Sir.
Thank you. You know, I know this board loves to demonize the clerk, but the thing about this issue is that we approve transfers of funds all the time, and we don't expect the electeds or the staff to be here to tell us what we're transferring or why we're transferring it. So we don't expect that from other electeds. So I'm not sure why this board is expecting this particular elected to come in and justify this, number one. Number two, we approved the budget in November, and this is within the clerk's budget, and so she should be able to spend her budget how she sees fit. Now, if she comes back and asks for money in September, October, then we've got an issue. But right now, it's her budget. Let her spend the money as she sees fit, as we do with every other elected official. My comments. Thank you.
Thank you, member Desart. Member Cahill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is different than every other elected official because this elected official and department did not provide the necessary documentation and support for this request. Other elected officials and other departments don't just submit budget transfers without evidence or documentation as to why they need this money transferred. Second, I believe that we are treating the clerk in a completely different manner than other elected officials by even postponing this. My thought right away is no, I am voting no on this because where has she provided the evidence that supports this transfer? And how then is she going to fund the statutory and fiscal charges going forward? And no one is here to explain it to us, and no documentation has submitted to our finance department. The answer is no, we cannot approve this transfer.
Thank you, member Cahill. Member Krajewski.
Thanks. So Jeff, I know budget transfers under our control. You take care of that. Budget transfers from elected officials. Do all elected officials, except maybe one, give you the information on why they want the budget transfer? Why an account is not going to have the money? Why they asked to have that done?
Typically we'll get the form, there'll be an explanation on the form. If a question comes up before the meeting, all elected officials that we are in contact with will answer the why, so we're prepared to answer those questions in case they come up here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, member. Okay, member Eckhoff and
Why on the transfer, are there 2 transfers to regular salaries, 2 to overtime, 2 to temporary salaries? Is that supposed to
You
be
don't-
I can't,
just how they did it?
yeah, just how they did it.
So, and we asked a question about what are you doing and why, and we got no response. I mean,
Correct.
the biggest reason we're treating this elected official differently than everybody else is because she acts different than everybody else with no cooperation and kicking this down the road and giving her the transfers now and seeing how it works out at the end of the fiscal year is what we did last year. And we had all kinds of different problems with that because we couldn't get any cooperation. So we're 3 months into the fiscal year and we're transferring hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't understand the point of it. So I'd say no. No to the extension and no today to this proposal.
Thank you, member Eckhoff, member Ozog.
I think most of us will agree that the goal here is to not say yes to this request. I am going to note that yesterday the clerk put on social media an almost 2-minute discussion that she videotaped about early elections, and yet they cannot come to us and help us do our job because we do hold the purse strings and it is our job to approve this sort of thing. As long as they don't get this approved, the proposal that I made to wait until October, it's, giving them a chance to, if they indeed go through the money, whatever, they can come back in October. If we say no today altogether, they can still make another request going forward. But I also want to remind everybody that this is a department that did not even write their own budget for at least 2 years in a row. So to come to us 3.5 months into the fiscal year and be looking for $500,000 in transfers for regular salaries, when there is plenty of money in the account right now, is just, it's irresponsible. So I'm going to stay with my date certain. It's on the table. However this works out, as long as this money is not approved. And on top of that, nobody is demonizing the clerk. This is almost a $500,000 request, and we've been told that the money is there right now for them to continue paying regular salaries, temporary, what have you. They have the money to conduct the primary election. Going forward, we'll just have to see what happens, but I need a whole lot more proof that they are under budget. The clerk has been claiming that we don't fund her, and that is just flat out wrong. And so while she's got the money that she has right now, continue to spend that, and then we'll have to talk about it in the fall.
Okay, and so we're gonna go back to member Ozog's motion to postpone till October 13, which was seconded, I believe, by member Evans. We're gonna take a roll call. I mean, obviously, it's frustrating. I don't want, the one thing that we do not want to do is trying to word myself carefully.
Underfund election.
Elections are running smoothly, which they are. I want to make sure that they are funded, which they are as of right now. The salaries are funded as they are right now. There is no explanation why this is being done as of right now. So I believe that postponing, I think, to October to give them a chance to perhaps explain maybe in better detail why this is needed. We do usually get explanations on when I read every budget transfer that comes and there's something on the budget transfer that says why it's needed. And so that I really want to make sure that we're clear that this was just an unusual request. So moving on to that, we're going to get a roll call on the motion to postpone to October 13th. Yes, member Tornatori.
Question of the state's attorney. If this motion to postpone until October passes, does that preclude us from discussing this particular issue or dealing with it until October?
No, it could be reconsider. Someone could do a motion to reconsider.
But it would have to be under a motion to reconsider.
Yes.
And it would have to be done within the next board meeting by the prevailing
If
party.
there's new information, there's procedural ways it could be brought back up. There would have to be new information, which there generally is with budget transfers.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank
Mike,
you.
okay, Member Ozog?
So hypothetically, if the clerk comes to us the end of June and they're not going to be able to fund, et cetera, going forward, that it could be brought up again as a new motion
As
to.
long as there was additional information, a new motion could be brought up. Any additional information from the clerk, from finance?
So any information,
Yes.
that would be good. Thank
Additional
you.
new information, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Member Childress?
I'm looking at the calendar and October 13th is like 3 weeks before the election. We're gonna be debating something about the election 3 weeks before the election.
Well, hopefully if they'll come back to us at a sooner date than that. We're just giving them a date that,
Worst case scenario.
worst case scenario,
Yeah.
We
correct.
could be debating something 3 weeks before the election.
Well, we're hoping we aren't doing that. We're hoping there'll be more discussion before that happens. So I mean,
I
just,
just wanted to clear my mind on the time frame. Worst
Correct.
case scenario.
that's worst
3
case
weeks-
scenario.
3 weeks before the election.
We'll bring it
say
back
that.
up, just to make sure that everything is okay at that point. And we want to make sure the election's running smoothly. So, okay, can I get a roll call?
Member Cahill. No. Member Childress. Member Covert.
I'm sorry, is this for Member Ozog's motion to postpone?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Member Desart. Member Eckhoff.
No.
Member Evans. Member Galassi. Member Garcia.
Aye.
Member Heather. Member Honig. Member Krajewski. Member LaPlante. Member Martinez.
Yes.
Member Ozag.
Yes.
Member Schwarzy. Member Tornatori. Member Yu.
Yes.
Member Zay. Member Krajewski.
The motion did not pass, so then we're gonna go back to an original motion to approve 26-0939. That was the transfer of funds. So we got a motion to approve from, I believe, also Member Ozog, I believe, second by, was that also Member Evans? Okay, so now we're gonna get a roll call on the motion to, I'm sorry, member, discussion. Okay, Member Tornatori?
Okay, just so I'm clear. This is a request from the clerk to transfer money, which they have in their budget, for salaries, which may or may not have been budgeted or have enough money in there to pay these salaries. It's not asking for more money. It's asking for a transfer of money to cover salaries, which presumably should have been covered in their budget if they had a budget. It has nothing to do with elections. It just has to do with salaries. And when we ask why this transfer, if you've got the money, why are you transferring it? We get no response.
Correct.
So similar to our child saying, Mom, I need an extra $10 for something when they've got $20 in their pocket. I mean, am I characterizing this correctly before I vote on this?
Yes.
Would you mind if I?
Yes, go ahead, Nick.
So I just want to, so it's the
No.
one couple of things I want to make sure everybody's clear on. They are transferring it from statutory and fiscal into personnel. Statutory and fiscal is related to the elections. That is their election judge pay, the vast majority of that. By our calculations, when they transfer this money out of statutory and fiscal, they will be short based upon historic spend for their statutory and fiscal, i.e. election judges. So based upon what we know without any other information, they will be short on the election judge pay in 2026 if they take this money out. Now, also conversely, on the personnel, based upon their current spend rate per month, they have sufficient money within their personnel lines where they are funded right now. Maybe they've got some other plan that they have, that they are gonna have more of a expenditure in personnel. But as of right now, given what we know, they have sufficient money. Keep in mind too, we're in March. So what is the timeliness of, I mean, they've got personnel money through November. So there is no shortage right now of personnel money. Whether that shortage comes in October, November, but right now we're showing nothing.
Okay,
So I wanna-
so everything just, again, I apologize. Everything I said was correct, except if we do this, they're gonna be short for money for election judges.
Based
Correct.
upon
Okay,
historic
all
spend.
right, all right, thank you.
Member Krajewski.
And they'll have a surplus on the current rate, current pay of the current employees in the payroll, unless they gave out big raises, then they may not have any.
They're tracking on budget for all salaries.
Right, and so they have enough money to, at the current rate, with the current pay, to have enough go through the end of November. And so this will just give them a lot more in there, that if they have some plan to bring more people in, pay more people more money, then they may be using it all.
Correct.
We just don't know, they don't come and tell.
Correct.
Okay. Sadia, Member Colbert, sorry.
Thank you. I just want to be clear on this. So if they have enough money for personnel and they're asking for extra, and they don't have enough money for the election judges till the end of the year, would they have the ability to transfer money from a different bucket or from personnel or whatever surplus they have to election judges? Is that allowed, or how would that work?
Technically, they would, correct. They would have that ability to do it via another budget transfer.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Member, you, did you hand up? No, okay. Anyone else have any discussion on this? Okay, let's take a roll call on the motion to approve 26-0939.
Member Cahill. Member Childress. Member Covert.
No.
Member Desart. Member Eckhoff. Member Evans. Member Galassi. Member Garcia.
No.
Member Heather. Member Honig. Member Krajewski. Member LaPlante. Member Martinez.
No.
Member Ozag. Member Schwarzy. Member Tornatori. Member Yu.
No.
Member Zay.
Okay. Motion did not pass. Okay, moving on to 6E, may I get a motion to approve 26-0913 for the budget transfers 3/10/2026 for various companies and accounting units. We have a motion by Vice Chair Cahill, second by Member Evans. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to procurement requisition, I'm going to pass it over to Vice Chair Cahill. Oh, there's nothing on there. I didn't see that. Okay, sorry. Just wanted to hear you say hi. Okay, moving on to Member Schwarzy and Human Services.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on HSP 1726. Recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to Nova Staff Healthcare Services, Inc. to provide supplemental nursing staffing services for the DuPage Care Center for the period April 13, 26 through April 12, 27, for a total contract amount not to exceed $60,000.
There's been a motion by Member Schwarzy, second, I think, by Member, was it Desart? Any discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I move on HSP 1826, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to RCM Technologies, Inc. to provide supplemental nursing staffing services for the DuPage Care Center for the period April 13, 26 through April 12, 27 for a total contract amount not to exceed $115,000.
Motion by Member Schwarzy, second by Member Heather. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Finally, I move on HSP 1926, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to Bright Star Care of Central DuPage to provide supplemental nursing staffing for the DuPage Care Center for the period April 13, 26 through April 12, 27 for a total contract amount not to exceed $175,000.
Got a motion by Member Schwarzy, second by Member Evans. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Member Schwarzy. Moving on to Judicial and Public Safety and Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I move to discharge the Judicial and Public Safety Committee as to agenda items 7B1, 7B2, and 7B3.
We got a motion by member Evans, second by, I believe, member you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I move on item 7B1, 26-931, transfer funds from other professional services to temporary salaries in the amount of $500 to temporarily bring back an employee to assist with testing.
And a motion by member Evans, second by member Zay. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I move on JPSR-9-26, resolution amending the seniors drive-through meal pilot program.
And a motion by member Evans, second by member Zay. Any discussion on this item? Member you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I understand that once we changed the income eligibility guidelines to LIHEAP guidelines, that there weren't enough people who came through the drive-through meal program. I just wanted to know what those numbers were, how many people came through.
Is there anyone from the sheriff's office here today to answer that? I'm not sure. Yes, no?
Yes. Hello.
Yeah, hi. There was a
Hi.
question regarding how many meals have been served in the last, I think, months or so with the new LIHEAP restrictions.
Hi. Yes. I'm Corporal Mendez. I'm the one who heads with the program. So with the LIHEAP restrictions, we've had those since we started the program. Right now we're getting anywhere from maybe 60 people coming in monthly. Our previous numbers before, with a different program, we had almost close to 160 to 200.
Okay, does that answer your question, member you?
Yes, it does. So now with the new guidelines that they're going to be doing, that's similar to what food pantries do you expect the numbers to go back up to 160 to 200?
100%. We've had so the reason we wanted it a little bit higher was we've spoken with a bunch of seniors that used to be part of our program in the past that were not eligible because they made slightly over what the LIHEAP was, or just made over what it was. And a lot of them were explaining to me that yes, they make more than that the LIHEAP income, but they also spend so much more nowadays with their medication becoming so much more expensive and their income not growing. So I do expect to have a lot more people being able to sign up. We're going to work on calling all of our old seniors that used to be part of the program and seeing if this passes, if they will be able to fit under this budget now.
Thank you. And I'd like to ask one more question if possible. And that is, do these same people who come through the drive-through meal program also use their local food pantries, their drive-through program as well?
I'm not exactly sure. I don't ask them. I do, however, if some of them tell me that they are going through a lot of hardships, I always push township pantries and other pantries. I have had others ask me questions. I do have a really good rapport with a lot of our seniors, so they know that if they have questions for certain things, they do ask me. I have given a lot of them different information regarding wherever townships they live in if they're looking for more resources, not necessarily just food.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And you do have a great rapport because I think you are one of the most loved people out. See you. So thank you for the work you do.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor of this agenda item?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on JPSR-11-26, intergovernmental agreement between the DuPage County and the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services to provide one uniform deputy sheriff in soft uniform and vest in one squad car for the period of May 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2029 for an amount of $631,513.17.
We got a motion by member Evans, second by member Zay. Is there any discussion on this item? Member you.
I just had one question. So it's my understanding that this contract is a new contract with the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, and it's to provide this one uniform deputy sheriff. And I'm wondering, is there somebody who's going to be moving from one position to another to fulfill this role, or are they looking to hire a new person And would the entire salary be covered under the IGA?
I think we have Evan going to come up and answer that.
I don't know that I can answer all of it, but I'll answer some of it. I know that through the IGA, the sheriff's salary is entirely covered by DCFS. Both salary and benefits are covered. My understanding is they have a deputy in mind that will be taking on this role. I can find out if they are planning on hiring to replace that deputy once this person moves over to this new role.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Evan. A member to start.
Thank you. So I'm sure I'm not understanding this correctly, but if DCFS is providing the uniformed officer and then we provide one squad car, why is the figure $631,000?
That's over the course of 3 years.
3 years. Okay, so salary and a squad car for 3 years, it still seems exorbitant to me.
Salary and benefits and the squad car.
All right, seems high to me, but thank you.
Okay, thank you, member Desart, and thank you, Evan. Any other discussion on this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on JPS CO -3-6 amendment to purchase order 7528-1 serve issued to Polaris Pharmacy Service to increase the contract encumbrance in the amount of $48,226 for a new contract total not to exceed $728,670.38.
Motion by member Evans, second by member Zay. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on JPSP -17-26, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Logicalis Inc. for IBM Passport software for the clerk of the circuit court for the period of April 1st, 2026 through March 31st, 2027, for a total contract amount of $111,219.44.
Motion by member Evans, second by member Heather. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I move on JPSP -19-26, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Niche Vision Forensics LLC for the purchase of new software for the genetic analyzer for the sheriff's office for the period of March 10th, 2026 through March 9th, 2027, for a contract total amount not to exceed $40,780.
A motion by member Evans, second by member Heather. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I move on JPSR -5-26, intergovernmental agreement with Bloomingdale Township for police services for a total amount of $163,284.46 for the period of April 1st, 2026 through March 31st, 2027, and that's for the sheriff's office.
Got a motion by member Evans, second by member Vice Chair Cahill. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I move on JPSR -6-26, intergovernmental agreement with Milton Township for police services for a total amount of $326,568.92 for the period of April 1st, 2026 through March 31st, 2027.
Got a motion by member Evans, second by member Yu. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I move on JPSR -7-26, intergovernmental agreement with York Township for police services for a total amount of $163,284.46 for the period of April 1st, 2026 through March 31st, 2027.
A motion by member Evans, second by Vice Chair Cahill. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And finally, I move on JPSR -8-26, intergovernmental agreement with Wayne Township for police services for a total amount of $163,284.46 for the period of April 1st, 2026 through March 31st, 2027.
Got a motion by member Evans, second by, was it Vice Chair Cahill again? Any discussion on this item? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, member Evans. Moving on to Public Works and member Childress.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on FMP 626, On the recommendation for the approval of a contract to Builder Chicago Corporation for the preventive maintenance and repair services for automatic manual doors with threshold closers for facilities management for a period of April 10, 2026 through April 9, 2028, for a total contract amount not to exceed $133,966.
Got a motion by member Childers, second by member Zay. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on FMR 126 on the amendment to the resolution of FMP 626 issued to Chicago Builder Corporation to provide preventive maintenance and repair services for automatic manual doors with threshold set closers as needed for the county facilities for facilities management, increasing the total contract price by 2%.
Got a motion by member Childers, second by member Zay. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on FMP 726 on the recommendation for the approval of a contract to Global Water Technology to furnish, deliver water treatment chemicals as needed for the campus facility for facilities management for a period of March 23, 2026 through March 22nd, 2027, for a total contract amount not to exceed $51,400.
Got a motion by member Childers, second by member Heather. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on FMP 826 on a recommendation for the approval of a contract to Red Wing Brand of America to furnish safety shoes, work boots as needed for the facilities management, public works, stormwater care center, and division of transportation for a period of March 10, 2026 through March 9, 2027, for a contract total amount not to exceed $46,100.
Got a motion by member Childers, second by member Yu. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on FMP 926 on the recommendation for the approval of contract to MG Mechanical Contracting LLC to furnish and install replacement utility exhaust fans on county campus for facilities management for a period of March 10, 2026 through March 9, 2027, for a total contract amount not to exceed $194,150.
We got a motion by member Childers, second by, I think it was member Zay. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on FMP 1026 on the recommendation for the approval of a contract to Advanced Boiler Control Services to provide boiler audit testing, tuning, training, and time and material at the power plant for facilities management for a period of April 10, 2026 through April 9, 2027, for a total contract amount not to exceed $70,057.50.
A motion by member Childers, second by member Heather. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on FMP 926 on the recommendation for the approval of a contract to Univar Solutions USA, Inc. for sodium bisulfite on an as-needed basis for the Woodridge, Green Valley, and Knollwood water treatment plants for Public Works for a period of April 1, 2026 to March 31, 2027, for a total contract amount not to exceed $45,000.
Motion by member Childers, second by member Zay. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on FMP 1026 on a recommendation for the approval of a contract to HOR contract for 31 manhole rehabilitations across DuPage County for Public Works for a period of March 10, 2026 through November 30, 2026, for a total contract amount not to exceed $118,726.66.
Got a motion by member Childers, second by member Zay. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And finally, I'd like to move on on PWR 426 on the second amendment to the agreement between the County of DuPage and DuPage River Salt Creek Work Group concerning the county's participation in the DRSCWG local funding program for alternative stream restoration projects for a period of June 1, 2026 to May 31st, 2030, for a total contract amount not to exceed $559,697.
A motion by member Childress, a second by member Desart. Any discussion on this? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, member Childress. Moving on to stormwater and member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on SMP 2-26, approval of a contract issued to Michael Baker International for Professional Engineering Services and Geospatial Programming Services for redevelopment of the county's custom floodplain mapping application of stormwater management from March 10th, 2026, November 30th, 2027. Contract not to exceed $250,000.
A motion by member Zay, second by member Childress, and discussion, member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I sent members of the county board an email yesterday. This has been a long meeting, so I don't want to go through the whole email unless we want to really discuss it and really get into it. But this is an unusual contract to build a custom GIS application to basically fill in the hole for an old platform that we have for our floodplain management, floodplain mapping software. And from what I understand from other stormwater engineers who are experts that are fluent in both the new software, HEC-RAS, and the old software, FEQ, there are cheaper ways to do this, and I would like to explore them. So I'm going to make a motion to postpone this vote until the next county board meeting, I guess, on March 24th.
You want to table it?
Is it table or postpone?
It's postponed when you want it to a specific date, so you are correct in your motion.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So,
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, someone seconded? Seconded by Vice Chair Cahill. We do have discussion by member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, member Evans brought this up at the Stormwater Committee and it was voted down, but
We have to suspend the rules
I
again.
move to suspend the rules, county board rules.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Member Evans brought this up at the county, at the stormwater meeting, was voted down by the committee. But this wasn't what she brought up at the committee. At the time she brought up the committee in her first attempt to postpone this was about using free software. And this is not only stormwater looked at this contract, our IT department looked at it because it works with our GIS people. Now this is a new argument that member Evans doesn't like our FEQ modeling. Our FEQ modeling we've been using for a long time. This contract won't change if we postpone it for 2 hours, 2 weeks, 2 years. For us to change our modeling would take years and millions of dollars. And again, I understand she doesn't like FEQ modeling. We got one public comment from a former employee that also, I think, didn't like FEQ modeling. I don't think that's the thing. I mean, we need this to update our mapping at this point. And I knew this was going to happen. So right after the stormwater meeting, I talked to Director Hun and told her to talk to IT and let's get a good explanation on why we're doing this contract. And if they want to come up and give a little explanation on this, I think that would help the board because again, just postponing it wouldn't make a difference on how we do our mapping.
Thank you, Chair Zay, and I can't thank Tom Ricker, who's up here with me, enough. His team has been working with us for 2 years on this process, on this evaluation. As Member Evans mentioned, the process we use is older, and we have been using it to map. To this date, over 70% of the county is mapped in FEQ. as we looked at this and wanted to move this forward, this isn't about creating new applications. This is about replacing older applications that are now out of date with the updated Esri software that the county is using on its enterprise system. I will step aside and let the expert in this software talk because that's not what I do. I do not do GIS mapping, and Tom is, as we know, probably one of the national experts.
Yeah, why we're here is the old software, the current software sits on what is ArcGIS Desktop. That's being retired this year. So it's sitting on Pro. The new technology, what we have is called GIS Enterprise, and that's a server-based application that's internal, okay? I'm very leery of free software. One, when you're talking about a workflow, you're talking about data coming from maybe one being processed, pre-processed in GIS, going to a open source software, and then back to GIS. You've got a lot of variables that could be inconsistent in that data workflow. What we're doing here is the tools will sit on Enterprise, which is our ArcGIS Enterprise. That's the newest technology. It's a web-based internal application. The scripts that we'll be writing will be Python and ArcPy scripts. Our staff is very familiar with Python scripting. We're going to be working hand in hand with developers who know the modeling. So when we look at the modeling, we will know what that script is doing. Yeah, they know the scripting and they know the computer jargon of what it's doing, but knowing making the relationship of why that program or why that script is running that way. So it's going to be very helpful to us supporting this application. And again, it's one base, and we're not worrying about setting applications on desktop. We're working it on a web-based application, so the update's going to be done globally. You're not going to have to worry about this desktop being updated and this desktop working with that free version software. So you've got various staff with desktop applications that are installed on their computer that are then going at and working with all these other applications. So you're looking at a very efficient, consistent workflow that's going to be with this project.
And if I get to add to that, the way Tom explained that to me when we started this process is that if you think of it like a car, our county IT and stormwater department is building this car with our selected firm. And when it comes in time where the car may need to be repaired or updated, or with a car warranty issues, we all built it together. And so Tom's group can get under the hood and work on it. That's how he explained it to me. And it kind of really hit home when he explained it like that, to bring it to something we're all used to dealing with. And to your point, Member Evans, we are working on transitioning to a new program when it comes time to remap our floodplains. But as Member Zay mentioned, this is a program that is deep rooted in the computer program is deep rooted in our stormwater program history. And it's not a simple replacement. It's making sure we do it right, making sure it works to optimize our flood control facilities, such as the Elmhurst Quarry, and making sure it can model that correctly. We're working with both federal and state agencies on developing and looking at new programs to move our program forward to the future to a more usable program.
Okay, Member Evans?
Unless somebody wants to chime in. So Tom, did anyone show you the RAS mapper capabilities, which was in HEC-RAS?
I haven't seen it, but I've been studying it with just online and reading the application and what it does, and just seeing how they do it. What I've seen and what I've read about, again, that's my concern, is the transferring of that data back and forth, and being consistent in that coming out. Plus, it's a different model. So it's that RAS model. So,
Right. Well, you can use just the GIS portion, the RAS mapper for the GIS instead of the application, and basically take that data and then write the scripting to put that information into the, and I'm sorry, this is so nerdy, into the FEQ format that we need. I'm just saying that it is a much cheaper solution that Michael Baker International knows how to do. A lot of stormwater engineers know how to do it. You're in the business of GIS and you don't really have the fluency with these other applications, but they're the free software, the first one we brought up was QGIS. And that's more of a user supported. So I understand why that wouldn't be inappropriate, but HEC-RAS was developed and is supported by the US government. So although it's free software, it is a government supported software.
Yeah, it's supported, but when I research online, if anything goes wrong with that, there's no direct number. It's basically, you've got a list of people that are the go-to person and you're emailing them back and forth. So if something comes up, you know, what's happening here? Okay, that detail, that talking back and forth is very crucial if there's a bug in the program, knowing what that script or why that's breaking. With the Esri format, we'll know what to do because the staff knows it. If we need to fall back on Michael Baker, we can. If we have to call somebody at Esri, I have tons of resources at Esri. I can pick up the phone and they can go to Redlands and get 5 people on it right away working on it.
Okay, but I think the scripting should come from the consultant and not from HEC-RAS, or, you know, the RAS mapper is the GIS platform that I really think can be used. So this is way too nerdy, and really it's something that should be discussed in Stormwater Committee. And, you know, part of it was my fault. I did not read the stormwater agenda item until the day before the meeting. And that's when I started consulting my other stormwater engineer friends. Tomorrow is the IAFSM, Illinois Association of State Floodplain Managers Conference. And I'll be bringing this up just to have the discussion, because this is just one very small portion of the larger conversation about switching from FEQ to HEC-RAS. FEQ is like a Model T Ford, and we just keep putting, you know, trying to prop it up. And very few engineers know how to program in FEQ. They're retiring and dying. So if we don't replace it and put a plan together to make that transition, we are going to be left with a platform that doesn't work and no one knows how to fix it. So that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Member Evans. Member Zay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you're saying the software is being retired, so we would need this no matter what at some point?
We have 2 staff members that have computers that can access our existing versions of these programs and to use it. And for example, just to be a little anecdotal, earlier this year or late last year, we passed a plan to move forward with a watershed plan, the Sawmill Creek watershed plan. That watershed plan is mapped in an approved FEQ map by FEMA. FEMA's approved the FEQ floodplain mapping. If under this watershed plan, we want to look at modifications that may be available in the village of Willowbrook or other areas in that watershed, we need to be able to utilize this floodplain mapping process, FEQ, to make those modifications. Having these programs available and useful to our staff as we transition to the enterprise system will be crucial for completing these watershed plans for watersheds that are mapped in FEQ.
And this contract's a not to exceed. So if we find a different way or a cheaper way, we would do it.
Correct. Both the Stormwater Committee Chair and I will say the Director of Stormwater are very conscientious of budget when it comes to contracts. And Michael Baker has also been informed that this is not to exceed. And we do hope and intend to look at ways to reduce the overall contract allotment. When we put this out for proposal at the staff level, we listed it at a contract amount not to exceed. And so it wasn't Michael Baker that came back with that cost proposal. And so we will be conscientious of budget as we manage this contract if the board approves for us to move forward.
Okay. As far as for the software, like I said, ArcGIS Desktop is going to be retired. That's what sits on, current tools sit on that. The next desktop software that's out there is Pro. Now with this solution, this enterprise solution, we're not utilizing desktop anymore. It's a web-based application. So those licenses that we pay software license, those could be used for other departments, or we can reduce those desktop licenses.
Okay.
Cost saving. Not a lot, but some cost saving.
Okay.
All right.
And it's a consistent platform.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for all of this certified floodplain manager information. Yes. Remember my IAF some days very much. We're gonna move on with the motion to postpone till the next county board member in 2 weeks, not county finance board meeting in 2 weeks. Can I get a roll call on that?
Member Cahill. Member Childress. Member Covert.
No.
Member Desart. Member Eckhoff. Member Evans. Member Galassi. Member Garcia.
No.
Member Heather. Member Honig. Member Krajewski. Member LaPlante. Member Martinez.
Yes.
Member Ozag. Member Schwarzy. Member Tornatori. Member Yu.
Yes.
Member Zay.
Okay. Glad to know. Okay, didn't pass. So we're gonna go back to the original motion to approve SMP 226. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm taking that away from you, members A. Go for it. Microphone.
Sorry, I already made the motion.
Okay, so we just need a second on that. Is that a second? Oh, thank you. I've already forgotten. Okay, member Childers seconded. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, roll call. Sorry, roll call on that.
Member Cahill. Member Childress. Member Covert.
Aye.
Member Desart. Member Eckhoff. Member Evans. Member Galassi. Member Garcia.
Aye.
Member Heather. Member Honig. Member Krajewski. Member LaPlante. Member Martinez.
Yes.
Member Ozag. Member Schwarzy. Member Tornatori. Member Yu.
Aye.
Member Zay.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving
Thank
going
you,
back to
Madam
member
Chair.
A.
Move on SMP 3-26, approval of contract with Black and Veatch for professional engineering services for construction oversight for the Elmhurst Quarry High Wall Stabilization Project from March 10th, 2026, November 30th, 2027, the amount not to exceed $350,000.
A motion by member Zay, second by member Childers. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move on SMP 4-26, approval of contract issued to Access Limited Construction for construction of the Elmhurst Quarry High Wall Stabilization Project for stormwater management from March 10th, 2026 to November 30th, 2027. Per lowest responsible bid, $5,775,654.88.
Motion by member Zay, second by member Desart. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you,
Moving
Madam
on, thank you, member Zay. Moving on, technology and member Covert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I entertain a motion on, I'm sorry, I like to move on TE-P-4-26, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Insight Public Sector for the procurement of Okta single sign-on and multi-factor authentication licensing for information technology for the period of April 30th, 2026 through April 29th, 2027 for a contract total amount of $99,961.91. Contract pursuant to the Intergovernmental Cooperation Act. This contract is subject to 2 optional 1-year renewals.
Got a motion by member Covert, second by member Zay. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, member Covert. Moving on to transportation and member Ozark.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I believe I promised the board that when I have a lot more items, spring is going to be here, and it was 58 degrees when I was driving here this morning. So hang on. I moved to combine items 7F1 through 713.
The motion by member Ozark to combine 7F1 through 7F13 and a second by member Tornatori. All those, motion carries.
Okay, I move for approval of DTP 1326, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Vulcan Construction Materials LLC to provide coarse and fine aggregates on an as-needed basis for the Department of Transportation and Department of Public Works for the period April 1st, 2026 through March 31st, 2027, for a contract total not to exceed $70,000. I move for approval of DTP 1426, recommendation for the approval of contract to Elmhurst Chicago Stone LLC to provide Portland cement concrete on an as-needed basis for the Division of Transportation and Department of Public Works for the period April 1st, 2026 through March 31st, 2027, for a contract total not to exceed $75,000. I move for approval of DTP 1526, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Superior Asphalt Materials to provide UPM cold patch on an as-needed basis for DuPage County for the Division of Transportation for the period April 1st, 2026 through March 31st, 2027 for a contract total not to exceed $65,000. I move for approval of DTP 1626, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Plo Construction Incorporated to provide bituminous paving materials in the west region of DuPage County on an as-needed basis for the Transportation Division for the period April 1st, 2026 through March 31st, 2027 for a contract total not to exceed $100,000. I move for approval of DTP 1726, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Duquesne Asphalt Company to provide bituminous paving materials in the central region of DuPage County on an as-needed basis for the Division of Transportation for the period April 1st, 2026 through March 31st, 2027 for a contract total not to exceed $120,000. I move for approval of DTP 1826, recommendation for the approval of a contract to K5 Construction Corporation to provide bituminous paving materials in the southeast region of DuPage County on an as-needed basis for the Division of Transportation and Department of Public Works for the period April 1st, 2026 through March 31st, 2027 for a contract total not to exceed $144,000. Move for approval of DTP 1926, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Sutton Ford to furnish and deliver one Ford F-550 4x4 Super Cab for the Division of Transportation for the period March 11th, 2026 through November 30th, 2027 for a contract total not to exceed $72,805. I move for approval of DTP 2026, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Sutton Ford to furnish and deliver one Ford F-550 one-ton dump truck for the Division of Transportation for the period of March 11th, 2026 through November 30th, 2027 for a contract total not to exceed $111,311. Move for approval of DTP 2126, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Sutton Ford to furnish and deliver three Ford F-350 crew cab trucks for the Division of Transportation for the period of March 11th, 2026 through November 30th, 2026 for a contract total not to exceed $185,488.35. I move for approval of DTP 2226, recommendation for the approval of contract to Sutton Ford to furnish and deliver two Ford 4x4 450 crew cabs for the Division of Transportation for the period of March 11th, 2026 through November 30th, 2027 for a contract total not to exceed $206,456. I move for approval of DTP 2326, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Sutton Ford to furnish and deliver two Ford 4x2 F-450 crew trucks for the Division of Transportation for the period March 11th, 2026 through November 30th, 2027 for a contract total not to exceed $264,420. I move for approval of DTP 2426, recommendation for the approval of a contract to CIT Trucks LLC to furnish and deliver four Kenworth T480H plow truck chassis for the Division of Transportation for the period March 11th, 2026 through November 30th, 2027 for a contract total not to exceed $591,908. And I move for approval of DTP 2526, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Bonnell Industries Incorporated to furnish and deliver snow and ice equipment for four plow trucks for the Division of Transportation for the period of March 11th, 2026 through November 30th, 2027 for a contract total not to exceed $838,126.58.
Got a motion by member Ozog, second by member Heather. Any discussion on any of these items? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Finally, I move for approval of DTR 226, recommendation for the approval of intergovernmental agreement between the Regional Transportation Authority, RTA, and DuPage County regarding the DuPage County Demand Responsive Services Study.
We got a motion by member Ozog, second by member Zay. Any discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, member Ozog. Going on to finance resolutions. Now I will go to Vice Chair Cahill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for approval on FIR 4826, acceptance of an extension of time for the DuPage Care Center Foundation Music Therapy Grant, program year 25, to extend the grant through February 28th, 2026, DuPage Care Center.
Motion by Vice Chair Cahill, second by member LaPlante. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I move for approval on FIR 4926, acceptance and appropriation of the DuPage Care Center Equipment Replacement Grant, program year 25, in the amount of $200,000, DuPage Care Center and Facilities Management Departments.
Got a motion by Vice Chair Cahill, second by member You, and a question by member Desart.
No, I actually had my hand up, but you didn't see me when I was raising my hand for 8A.
Oh,
I
I'm
just,
sorry.
no, that's all right. So can I go back to 8A or do I have to wait till like old business?
Wait till old business probably.
Okay, all right.
Didn't see you, I'm sorry. Okay, any other discussion on 8B? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. I move for approval on FIR 50-26, acceptance and appropriation of additional funding for the IACAA Employment Barrier Reduction Pilot Program, program year 26, in the amount of $17,250,000, increasing funding from $40,250 to $57,500 in community services.
Motion by Vice Chair Cahill, second by member Evans, and a question by member Desart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a pilot program. Can I get more information about this program? There wasn't a whole lot in the packet. Thank you.
Mary Keating, coming up from Community Services.
Sure, thanks for your question. This is a program that allows us to use small amounts of financial assistance to reduce barriers to employment for low-income clients. And so things like a week's worth of childcare, a car repair, something like that, something that will help somebody get access to employment.
Gotcha. So it's different than what WorkNet does as far as
Yes.
helping people
Yeah, this is
find
not
jobs.
for, this isn't for training or those kinds
And
of
how do
things.
people apply for this if they need their car repaired or something like that?
They would work through our case management department.
So-
They would call information and referral.
211?
211, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, member Desart. Any other discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I move for approval on FIR 51-26, additional appropriation for the County Infrastructure Fund for the Elmhurst Quarry Control Facility for fiscal year 2026 in the amount of $5,865,655.
Motion by Vice Chair Cahill, second by member Desart. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I move for approval on FIR 52-26, annual financial commitment to the DuPage County Health Department for operational support and leadership for DCSS for fiscal year 26 in the amount of $300,000.
Motion by Vice Chair Cahill, second by member Heather. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to receive and place on file A, payment of claims, B, appointments, with the exception of item 9B5, which is being pulled.
Okay, motion by Vice Chair Cahill, second by member Evans. Any discussion on the receiving and placing on file? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to old, so that was pulled completely? Oh, moving on to old business and member Desart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did have two questions that went by really fast. One is 8E, the amount of money that we're giving to the expending for the DuPage Housing County Health Department, 300,000. I was just wondering, what is the county's financial commitment to the health department in the past? Has it been 300,000 annually or has it gone up?
This is for the TCSS, right?
Yeah, this is DCSS. It's part of the yearly contribution that the county gives toward that program. It vacillates between 250,000 and 300. Oop, right there.
It has, just as he said, I heard the question, I came running in here. It has, since I believe the inception of the Hope Task Force, which some of you may remember, began at about 250 and it has gone back and forth.
Back and forth.
250.
It's gone up.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. And then 8A, my question was just regarding the dates. So the money allotted was for fiscal year 25, and then we just voted for it to go through February 28th, 2026, which has passed.
Janelle Chadwick from the Care Center, are you online?
And then my next question is, because it's passed for February 28th, 2026, I assume we're renewing it for 2026 through 2027, but just the dates, were confusing to me because it already passed. Thank you.
I will have Janelle reach out. I mean, we have 10 minutes between board, but I will have Janelle and I will try to get the answers for you before board, okay?
Thank you. That's it.
All right, moving on to old business. Does anyone have any old business? No, that was old business, never mind. Any new business? Okay, with